Hello everyone, today we are reading the next part of Unhealthy Obsession written by Fiery_Passion on AO3. So this will be Chapter 1. Summary: Shimura is patrolling and ends up getting attacked by a random drunk. Luckily, someone comes to his rescue. Shimura was patrolling a small part of Japan. It was pretty late at night, which is what he preferred since there were less people around, which most likely meant less trouble, and less people seeing him and making the same repetitive and rude comments about lotion or chapstick. He tried, damn it. It didn't do anything. He didn't really consider himself much of a hero. The only useful and good thing he could do with a quirk like his was destroy rubble that had people trapped under it. This, of course, meant that he didn't get much, or really any, of the spotlight and attention, though he honestly preferred it like that. Not being in the limelight and all that, people didn't really know about him, nor did the media pay any attention to him. He had a small amount of merch, but it wasn't much, and it didn't really matter too much. And it was made back in his high school years, so it didn't mean much of anything. He enjoyed the peace of no one knowing him as a hero. To him, it just meant less pressure, less needing to always be perfect, less stress due to social anxiety, less people acting and thinking that they know him while they really don't. He really did consider all of that a good thing. He rounded a corner and walked down an alleyway, nerves lighting up and going on end. This was a pretty dangerous spot, especially at these later hours, but he had to go through it and to continue with his patrol route, so he just continued forward and hoped for the best. He silently wondered why every time he was on night patrol, he was given this route. He has voiced his complaints and concerns multiple times, and yet they also say some bullshit about how he was the only one able to do this and how he was the best equipped to deal with this route. He was pretty sure that they were trying to kill him, which wouldn't surprise him much considering how he'd overheard some people, both in and outside the agency, considering him dead weight. He ignored the bubbling sour feeling and kept on walking down the alleyway, all while feeling tense the entire time. Some guy was stumbling along his way, clearly drunk. Other than being drunk, he seemed fine, so he continued walking until he suddenly felt the force of being harshly pushed and stumbled into a wall. He started to get his bearings together, but before he could do much, he was pinned. The sickening smell of alcohol on the man's breath made him want to vomit. Damn, you have a pretty face, boy, the man said. He was very, very drunk. That was extremely clear. Shimura cringed at both the smell of alcohol on the man's breath and his disgusting words, though he forced himself to stay calm and find a non-violent way out. Despite the fact that he's getting that odd feeling that he's in some sort of trouble, where every instinct and nerve is telling him to clock him and run. "Is there something you need, sir?" Shimura asked, trying to think of a good way out of the situation and trying to keep any anger, disgust, or fear out of his voice. "Having you seems like something I need," the man drunkenly sputtered. Shimura cringed at the words, deciding that violence was not only the best way out of this spot, but also the only option to actually exist. He shut his eyes and gathered all of his strength, physical and mental, to get ready to push this creep away from him. He was just about to open his eyes with intentions of shoving him as hard as he could and yell, but before he could fully open his eyes, a gust of wind passed by him, which caused him to close them again. He heard the man yell out before quickly being cut off by the sound of a sharp object cutting into flesh, the only sound seemingly coming from him now being choked, gurgling sounds. It took a bit for him to open his eyes again, trying to figure out what may have happened and what was the best solution of escape before having to actually deal with it. What he saw in front of him startled him enough that he completely froze, his mind drawing a blank before being swarmed with hundreds upon hundreds of questions. The man that had harassed him laid on the ground, seeming to be bleeding out due to a few stab wounds and a big slash on his chest. By the look of it, the Creeps' attacker was Spinner, one of the people who presumably took inspiration from the hero killer, which made plainly obvious with his choice of outfit. He recognized him from Izuku's account of events with the UA camp attack, along with the raid on the Love's base, despite barely seeing him there with everything else going on. Spinner turned to him and made quick stride as he walked over to him, putting his sword away as he walked. When he got close enough, he put his hands on the Shimura's face. "Are you okay? I was content just watching you like I have been for the last few months, but once that bastard started to try to touch you, I couldn't help but do something," Spinner said, his voice being laced with both concern and fury. I- I'm fine," Shimura answered, feeling his heart beating faster, though not entirely sure if it was out of fear. This was weird. Really weird. He didn't have that "in trouble" feeling at all, which did make this even weirder, but it also put him slightly at ease. Good. It would have been god awful if he had succeeded in hurting you at all," Spinner said, his voice losing any of that concern or fury, and it being replaced by something. Shimura couldn't quite put his finger on what, though. Well, now that I have you here in front of me, I might as well do something I've been wanting to do for such a long time. Huh? Shimura started, but he was quickly interrupted by Spinner pressing his own lips to his. He went wide-eyed with surprise, confusion filling his mind almost completely, making it so hard to form a coherent thought, though, despite all that, he started to feel warm all over. He felt oddly safe like this, like nothing could ever succeed in hurting him. It made the confusion grow and his head spin, this entire situation definitely being something he didn't think would be happening tonight. Spinner's hands slowly moved down from his face to his waist, one hand slightly moving to be under his shirt while still being on his waist in order to rub circle there with his thumb. Shimura couldn't suppress noises of surprise, or the ones of slight bliss, feeling his body getting hotter almost as if he was burning. Spinner pulled back slightly and quickly moved from his lips to his neck. After planting a few gentle kisses there, he bit down and sucked slightly. Shimura gasped and whined at the feeling, finding that the slight amount of pain turned him on slightly instead of making him feel afraid or anything. When Spinner was satisfied with whatever he was trying to do, he let go of him and moved back a little, simply looking him over, with his eyes mostly lingering on the bite mark he left. Shimura held onto the wall the best he could and worked on catching his breath, feeling his head spinning and a little overwhelmed with all of this. When Spinner got his eye full of the hero, he smirked and finally settled his gaze on his face. It looks good on you, Dust. I hope you realize exactly what this means for you now," Spinner said, his voice sounding a bit deeper than what was presumed normal, and almost sultry. Huh? What does? Shimura questioned, still trying to get his thoughts together enough to be able to figure any piece of this moment out. Spinner chuckled and moved close to him until he was right next to him, leaning in just a little bit closer to whisper in his ear, "You're mine." Shimmer gulped and shivered hearing those words, feeling his heart skip a beat and his mind pulled up a 404 error message. Spinner then moved back fully and left. Shimura spent a few more moments standing there, panting and collecting himself. He eventually got himself together and regained his breath, so he continued on his way on patrol, wondering how he would explain the bite mark to Midoriya-san and Izuku. Maybe he'd just not tell them at all. This is it for the chapter. We also have an and incorrect quote left by the author. Spinner, you are the love of my life, and I would do anything within reason to make you happy. Shimura, I would be happy if you ate, stayed hydrated, and got a reasonable amount of sleep. Spinner, I said within reason. How about I murder that guy? Shimura, so murder is in reason, but proper self-care isn't? Spinner, well, duh, what kind of question is that? And there we go. So this is the complete part of chapter 1, which is chapter 2. It's a bit confusing. The chapters are delayed because the chapter 1 was the prologue. You get it. Anyways, I have also learned that I would be a very, very bad smut reader, which doesn't change much because I didn't have any intention of reading any. But yeah, no, it just makes me laugh. I cannot take it seriously. But anyways, I hope you enjoy this, and I will see you all in the next chapter.